Nick Woltemade has completed his Newcastle United medical ahead of a £69 million move from Stuttgart, and they might not be finished there. Has the door been opened for a British record move to Liverpool for Alexander Isak? We have the latest on the transfer saga of the summer, aren't we all? We start with the story that has dominated the window. Will Liverpool break the British transfer record to sign Alexander Isak? Newcastle United have opened the door after agreeing a club record deal of their own. £69 million for Stuttgart striker Nick Woltemade. So, what now for Isak?
That's very nice for Eddie because Anthony Gordon is suspended and Isak has not been training with the team a lot, so it's nice for him to have another number 9.
What about in general terms, though? How likely do you feel you are to add to your squad, whether it's another striker, whether it's a centre-up, whatever?
As always, we try to sign players that can help us, but there's no reason after the first 2 games to complain or to think we need more. But if we can strengthen the squad, then we will always try to do that if it's for the right money and it's the right player.
Yeah, those are thoughts of Arne Slot. Let's play a quick game of transfer domino, shall we? The final one seems to be Alexander Isak. Will that domino fall? The first one is about to. Nick Woltemade. Eddie Howe mentioned it there, James. Where are we with this deal?
We're very close to this deal being done. There could be an announcement later on this evening because he's completed his medical at Newcastle.
Newcastle's statement in response to Alexander Isak was that the terms and conditions of a sale were not met. Now, those terms and conditions were twofold. The price that they valued Isak at and bringing in 2 replacements. Woltemade looks like it's one. They need another one. Could it be Jørgen Strand-Larsen, Johan Wissa? Again, those 2 deals are complicated by Wolves and Brentford. Wolves don't want to sell. Brentford need a replacement of their own if they are to allow Wissa to go. They've made a bid for the Borussia Dortmund striker, Maximilian Bayer. Carve, there's so much going on just now with all of these deals. It's a bit like, I've called it transfer dominoes. You could almost call it a house sale as well, couldn't you? Because there's so many chains involved in this, but how will it end? Does it fall with Isak getting his move to Liverpool?
Well, I think he could on Monday, but I still think that Newcastle would need to sign another forward. They still haven't given up hope of signing Wissa or Strand-Larsen. I think if they sign one of those 2 players, then you have to wait and see what Liverpool do. We've seen Liverpool have been very, very disciplined in the transfer market. People talking about Liverpool making a bid of £150 million. I can never see that happening. They think the player is worth a British record sum. I think if they're going to go above that, it's not going to be much more than that. Maybe they'll change the terms of the deal or the structure of it a little bit. But Liverpool, I think, are still in a pretty strong position because they can bide their time until deadline day.
Sky, welcome along. Just in time as well, weren't you? Look, I'm sure you followed this saga, including those statements that were made by Alexander Isak and Newcastle United's response. A 2-part question. One I put to Carve was, will Isak get his move? But also, how do you think you would have handled it had you been Alexander Isak's agent?
Well, I'll go to the latter first. This situation is driving a lot of people crazy, but what it is that you've got agents in the game that I would call them money agents. And there are other agents that actually look after players and make the right decisions for players. Now, let's play devil's advocate here. Isak goes to Newcastle and he signs a 6-year contract without a buyout clause. Now, I want to explain to the public that a 6-year contract means to an agent 6 years of the gross income. So let's call it 10%. Let's say that Isak's on 100 grand a week, 5 million a year, 6-year contract, 30 million, let's call it 10%, 3 million commission. Now, an agent that says to a club, my commission is 3 million, I want it in 2 payments or in 3 payments. They can only say that if the club feels that the agent has helped the club. I call it a soft agent. So the problem with that is that, number one, a club is going to say, well, maybe we can give 2 payments, 3 payments, because, this is a good situation for us. We've got a player under 6-year contract with no buyout clause. The problem with that is that as soon as the agent gets their last payment, they're looking for the next move. Now, you've noticed, and I don't want to pour scorn on my profession, but you've noticed that it's only Isak that is seen as the bad guy. There's something going on behind the scenes where he's being advised to behave in a certain way. But this isn't a good situation for football. If he gets his move, it isn't a good situation for football because there are young footballers out there looking at the situation and thinking, oh, right, that's the way to do it. Players have got to take responsibility for who looks after them. And it's quite obvious that world-class players need world-class advice. They need people that have got hindsight or foresight. If anybody's telling me that this player came into Newcastle and no one expected him to be successful, then why is he playing football? So now we have a situation where he's forcing himself into doing a move. Liverpool could quite rightly say to him, we want a 20-year contract with no buyout because he's got nowhere else to go.
Can I just ask you about the statement that Isak made? Because you had a situation there where he is claiming that promises were reneged upon. Now, as an agent...
That's absolutely ridiculous.
Okay.
Promises were reneged upon. We're in a multi-billion-pound industry. Any promises have to be put in black and white in a contract. If it's not put in a contract, then it doesn't exist. And for any agent to not put discussions, whatever promises were made have got to be put in a contract. If it's not in a contract, you can't expect anyone to honour it. And for the player to say that he was made promises, that's a reflection on his representatives. Because players just want to play football. And if they sit there with someone and say, oh, right, the common saying is clubs will say, don't worry, just come and knock on our door, when things are going on. That's just not good enough. He's a world-class asset. You can't blame Newcastle for giving him a 6-year contract, well played, right? But then when it comes down to the divorce has to be negotiated at the same time as the marriage. There are too many agents out there doing an average job, and I don't want to criticise this agent in particular because I'm not 100% sure what's going on behind the scenes. But this situation should never arise. And by the way, after 3 years, it's muted that he was supposed to get another contract. Okay, so he gets another contract after 3 years. That contract's got to be extended. So if he would have got this so-called contract, then his contract would have had to been extended. So what are we looking at now? Another 6 years? So then now he's saying he wants to leave with 5 years left on his contract. I just want the fans to understand, because sometimes fans don't understand what's going on, especially with agents and players. If a player signs a long-term contract, they have to honour the contract. And the fans have to tell every player, honour your contract. And don't have a go at the ones that do.
Okay, don't go anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere.
More
Carve's here. Do you know what I mean? White Jacket Man is here. I'm here all night.
Oh, is there a danger if Isak gets this move now this summer that contracts are effectively meaningless? Because Newcastle put themselves in a brilliant position. He's got 3 years left in his contract, but because of the way that he's behaved and whatever's gone on behind the scenes, effectively that 3-year contract isn't counting for a huge amount right now.
Yeah. I mean, this situation is not good for football. Because as a great man in football said to me once, if you don't have rules and regs, then it's the wild, wild west. So look at Declan Rice, right? He just didn't sign a contract. He went down to 1 year and left, right? What's the matter to sell him, right? Trent, no matter what you say about Trent honoured his contract. If Trent wanted to leave with 3 years to go, what would people have been saying? Players have to honour their contracts unless there's something put in front of them. If they get the advice, which I know some players do get, just sign this contract and don't worry, if someone wants to buy you, they'll come and buy you. Well, if you've got 3 years left, there's only few clubs that can actually pay the money. So it's not good for football. Young players, they've got to have good representation, good advice, structure your contract for success, and then if you're successful, you can leave.